What's up, everybody? Welcome to Geared Up. It's our weekly live broadcast. We talk about gear, we do lighting breakdowns, we teach cool stuff, we find out things together, we have fun, we take lighting questions. Today we're sitting in front of our backdrop because we pre-recorded something outside. Today's all about high-speed sync, specifically with kind of the B20 in mind, because that's what we used during the entire shoot. But we do talk about a couple of other lights in the realm of what it is that we do. So you'll hear me address the A2. You'll hear me talk predominantly about the B20 because that's the main light that we're using in the whole thing. And you'll hear me address the D30, kind of in what you can expect from these lights and what they can and can't do. I think that's one of the biggest things that people are always trying to figure out when they're like, does this light fit my style? I try to address that in the video, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will answer them here. The video is about, what, 15, 18 minutes long, something like that. It's not too crazy. We take some shots. I've got my Capture One pulled up here also in the studio so we can look back through some stuff that way as well if you have any questions after the fact. But again, it's a video. We're gonna explain kind of from the beginning what high-speed sync is, why it works the way that it does, things that it does well, things that may not do so well, and just some stuff to keep in mind. So with that being said, I believe that we are going to, that right there is going to be the screen share. So that's not what we want. That's not it. That's not the one that we want. No, it's funky. They changed it up, so it's kind of like funky. So it's that the circles. I see it. It should be okay. So we'll
have to switch it over.
Yeah, so we'll click that about high-speed sync. What is it and what it's useful for? High-speed sync is a technology that allows your camera to go above its max sync speed when it comes to a flash. With focal plane shuttered cameras, you have an issue to where your camera is going to have a certain sync speed, and once you exceed that, what's going to happen is your rear curtain is going to start to close before your first curtain has opened all the way, and generally that's what fires off your flash. So on a focal plane shutter camera, when you press the trigger, the shutter opens, flash fires when this totally opens, and then the second shutter closes, and then that's your exposure. What happens when you go above your camera's sync speed, when that first curtain starts to open, the second curtain starts to close before the first curtain can get all the way to the top to fire the flash. That's why you get that dark band across your images. That is your actual focal plane, your rear curtain closing across your sensor. High-speed sync fixes this by firing the flash and pulsing the light right at the moment that that first curtain starts to open. So the first curtain opens and the flash goes off, and it almost stays on like a constant, like what you would expect, like a cinema light or an LED light, something constant that's on all the time. But what it's doing is it turns on and it starts to pulse, and it starts to pulse with the timing of your cameras. Why having a TTL trigger, having your firmware up to date, all that stuff's important, because those timing codes allow the pulses to flash with your focal plane shutter. So what does that mean for us? That means that we can now shoot in environments where we have to push our shutter speeds really, really high. And why would we need to do that in certain things? So we're here on a location, we'll show you here in just a couple seconds. It's bright, I'm already sweating, it's hot out here in Georgia. But we're on a location that's not necessarily the most gorgeous location on the planet. And we know that there are a few different ways that you can use your camera to fix the location that you're in order to make a great image, kind of no matter where you are. One of the things that you have is the ability to reposition your camera. You can go higher and get rid of things. You can go lower and get rid of things. Another really, really great way of getting rid of things that you don't want to see is opening up your lens to a really wide aperture. So my camera today will probably be shooting around f2. And what that's going to allow us to do is really going to let us blur out the background and keep the focus on Kate. The problem, and this is where high-speed sync comes back into it, is once you start to open up and allow a lot of light into your camera, what generally tends to happen is you have to push those shutter speeds really, really high to bring that ambient light back down. And just like we talked about, once you start pushing those shutter speeds super high with a traditional focal plane camera, now if you're using a leaf shuttered camera, or if you have one of the newer cameras with a global shutter, this isn't as much of an issue. But with the majority of cameras, and the majority of them are focal plane shutters, what's going to happen is you're going to start pushing that shutter speed up, and then you're going to start introducing that rear curtain before your flash goes off. So high-speed sync lets us get around that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of try to make the scene that we're in not so visible, blur a lot of it out, compress a little bit of it with a little bit longer of a lens, and just try to take a really, really beautiful image in midday sun. I mean, we're talking noon o'clock here, so the sun is super high. It's probably mid-90s, Kate. What do you think? It's spicy. My shirt will change colors here very soon, but we're gonna make a great image no matter what. And so now let's get to the practical portion of this whole thing. All right, cool. So now we're out in the sun. Luckily, I think we got like a hair of a reprieve for a second because the sun went behind a cloud. But we're out here in the heat. Again, I'm sweating like a banshee. But we're going to take some really fun images again in a background that's not really all that beautiful. You know, we have some walking paths here. We have some kudzu kind of growing over the trees. But again, we can use our camera height adjustment as well as our aperture to kind of get rid of all that stuff and really control the ambient light. We can darken it down as much as we want to with high-speed sync, which is really nice, and give us the opportunity to make a beautiful image kind of really no matter where we're at. Now, there's some things that you have to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about equipment selection, modifier selection, whenever you're doing something with high-speed sync. So you have to remember that high-speed sync eats a lot of power. So the harder that you push that shutter speed, the harder it's going to be for your flash to properly expose your scene. So you're going to want to make sure that you are using the right flash for the right job. If you're more into a nice blend of ambient with your flash, using something like an A2 with a click softbox shouldn't be a problem. Once you start to go to the point where you're pushing your shutter speeds to really crush that ambient and make more of a dramatic image where there's more contrast between the background and the subject, then you're going to find that you need a little bit more power, or you need to change your modifier selection. So we have a couple of different modifiers with us today, just depending on how we choose to make a certain image or what we need. We also have a couple of different powered lights we can go with. So for the most part, we're going to be starting off here with the B20. It's 250 watt second light. It should be able to do a lot of good stuff, but I have a feeling that we're going to be kind of at the top end of the power scale there. So we do have a D30 with us if we decide that we need a little bit more power, or if we need to back the light up. There's a lot of things that could be in motion here, especially when you're outside and the light's constantly changing, that you might need to be a little bit flexible with. So this is where you kind of walk the line whenever you're trying to figure out, do I need an A2? Do I need a B20? Do I need a B30? You have to you have to look at what it is that you do, how you shoot, your style, what it is that you are generally trying to achieve, and pick a light based off of that. So if you're more into the light and airy look, an A2, a B20 is definitely going to be more than, more of what you need. But if you find yourself going back and forth between, crushing that ambient light and then back more to a light and airy look, you might want to look at something like the B30, something with a little bit more power on the top end that gives you a lot of ability to turn the light down on itself, so you can kiss a little bit of flash in there if that's what you want. So with that being said, we're going to jump into a couple of images. So what we're doing here is we have the B20, we have the 3-foot Octa white, and what we're trying to do is just fill in the ambient light on Kate. Now, a softbox does consume some light, about a stop, maybe even a stop and a half. So we can do a couple of different things. The nice thing about the new softbox is we have a lot of diffusers you can choose from. I could have went down to a half-stop diffuser. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave the softbox just the way it comes out of the packaging, so you could see how you're balancing that stuff there. Now, if you find that you're consistently needing that half a stop, it might be a good idea to snag one of those half-stop diffusers. They're really, really handy. So again, because we've decided to go with the softer light, we have to take into account the fact that we are now losing a little bit more light on top of our high-speed sync. So let's jump into some shots. Let's see what this thing can do. Let's see how it performs and have a little bit of fun. First shot that we're going to wind up taking, Kate, if you're ready to kind of jump in here, I applaud you for staying in the shade. It's definitely the move. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a photo of Kate with the flash turned off, so you can kind of see what we're working with the ambient light. Now, I will say this, we did just get a lovely shade cloud, so we're going to be slowing that shutter speed down quite a bit now. So, see where we go. 3, 2, 1. So it's not bad, there's definitely some shadow on her. Settings now, we're at 3/20th of a second on our shutter speed because the ambient light's changing. Now I'll show you how we can kind of roll with this as we're going. But if I take this shot right now, 3, 2, 1, there we go. It's not a terrible shot. The light's nice. The sky's made kind of like a nice little softbox for us for the most part. The sun's trying to peek through. But we just want to kiss a little bit of light into the scene. And now because the shutter speed has substantially dropped because of the clouds, we're actually going to make back up quite a bit of power. So let's turn on this Connect Pro. And then we're going to take a TTL shot. So we go, 3. Actually, you know what? We're starting to get a little bit more sun. I'm going to speed that shutter up just a hair. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. So we were able to take the flash in high speed sync and just kiss that light into the scene. Here, I'm going to take a look at it so we can talk about it while we're doing this. But we were able to bring some light back into the scene, back into her face, while also keeping that beautiful highlight on her arm that the sun's providing us, and that beautiful highlight across her hat, again, that the sun's providing us, all while taking down a scene that's maybe, again, not aesthetically as pleasing as it could be. And we could even go further. I could drop this down a little bit further. We could shoot up a little bit higher on her, but it looks really lovely. Now, with the shutter speed dropped down, we are at a power level of 8.5. So we do have another 1.5 on the top end to get a nice even exposure. What this tells me is that we could easily take the A2 in this scenario and get a really, really good exposure. We'd be pushing it right at the top end, which is totally fine. It's got, the A2 is gonna give you like 400 full power flashes on a charge. Even if you're at 10 on your A2 with a softbox, you're gonna have plenty of exposures, and it's easy to pack a second battery, so that's money there. But really, really nice. So let's see what we're looking like now that the sun's really starting to come out from behind those clouds. Let's speed that shutter up. So the last shot that we just took, when we were initially taking the photo, we were at 3/20th of a second. That's what I showed you before the clouds started kind of creeping back out. Now we're up to 640th of a second, and honestly, I need to speed up a little bit more because the highlights on her arm are really starting to overexpose. Oh, and then we get a cloud right as we do it. So right there we get a cloud. So say we're going to take that into account and we're going to slow down just a little bit to 500th of a second. A nice little coverage on her. 3, 2, 1. And that's really, really beautiful image. Let's check that out. We were able to maintain that nice highlight just by slowing that shutter speed down a little bit and still getting a beautiful fill light. And because the shutter speed slowed down a little bit, we gained back almost a stop of light on the B20. Say we wanted to do this in more of a full body shot. That's what we're gonna do right now. We're going to back this thing up. I'm going to drop my tripod down a little bit more too, just because, again, not the prettiest area that we're in, and we're here for a reason. So now with this shot, if I wanted to stay right here with a full body shot, what's gonna start to happen is you're gonna see the modifier start to creep into the scene. Now, could we Photoshop it out? Sure, we could. It's totally possible, but maybe that's not what we want to do. Maybe we don't want to have to do too much editing. Maybe the client needs the images really, really fast. So what we'll need to do now is back our modifier up a little bit. I'm also gonna raise it up a little bit higher. Now, one of the things that we have working for us is we have a longer lens. So it's a little bit easier to get the light out of the shot. But in doing that, so that last shot that we took, just so you know, we were at a power level of 8 on the B20. So, and the sun's actually coming back out, so I think I'm gonna have to speed back up now. So let's see what happens. Because again, I don't want that shoulder really like crazily overexposed. So I've sped back up now to 1250th of a second. Again, the sun is blazing. And we're gonna take a shot, and I have a feeling that we're going to 10. I have a feeling that light's gonna start screaming. 3, 2, oh, hold on a second. 3, 2, 1. Love it. So there, we have a really nice exposure on Kate. We were able to keep the highlights from getting absolutely blasted by the sun, but we were able to fill her in really, really nicely, get a nice image, and again, all while minimizing the background that's not as lovely as one would necessarily hope. The things that happen here is we have had to back the light up now. We have now made it to the top end of our power scale when it comes to actually shooting this thing. So the things that we're going to run into at this point, if it gets too much brighter out here, we're going to have to bring that light in closer, or we're going to have to get more power, or we're just gonna have to be okay with it being turned all the way up, and we're gonna lose some battery lives. This is kind of the fine line that you start walking when you're playing with battery powered stuff, and some of the distances with high speed sync. Now, we could simply do something like change modifier selection and make up for that. So let's do that right now. I generally give the OCF Magnum a lot of love. And today I want to give the OCF Zoom a little bit more love. This thing is a really nice reflector. It'll give you about 1 to 1.2 more stops of light output by using it. And it's a lot smaller than the Magnum. So it's really, really easy to pack. It's a great little modifier. The cool thing is with this reflector, you can put it on backwards onto your flash and travel with it like that in your bag. It's really, really simple. So let's go OCF Zoom. You ready to rock and roll? Let me get behind my camera and double check where you're at. And of course, again, we have a lot of clouds going on today, so things are gonna be back and forth quite a bit. Let's open up the shutter speed a little bit more. So let's get this. Yeah, it's pointed way away from you. Let's go here. Cool. And so now what's gonna happen, so that last shot that we took with the softbox, we were at full power. Now we're gonna gain quite a lot of light back. Now the quality of the light's gonna be a little bit harder. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. It's more of a hard quality of light, but because you're blending it a little bit more with the ambient light, because we're kind of behind the cloud cover at this point, so we're able to slow that shutter speed down and bring in a little bit more of that ambient light, it feels really natural, which is nice. You can, again, making a shot feel, oh, the sun's coming back out, we'll talk about this here in a second, but let's just cover this. Making a shot feel natural isn't necessarily always about modifier selection, and we've shown this in the past that really it comes down to the contrast, the difference between your ambient light and the flash. So the more ambient light you allow into the image to match the flash, the more natural it's gonna feel. So whether it's a hard light or soft light, you can do it with just matching the ambient light a little bit more. Now, light placement is going to have a big deal with it. We're kind of around on Kate a little bit more, so we're not getting too many huge shadows across the face. That's a big telltale sign. So, you know, bringing that harder light around a little bit more is important. But now that the sun's out, let's see what we can do now with pushing this thing. Now I feel like the sun really came out. So that last shot, by the way, was at like 3/20th of a second. So we're going to start crushing this back down to 1250. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cool. So we're back into the realm of where we were with the shots before with the softbox, and we were pushing a power level of 10 with that. Now we are looking at a power level of 8.5. So we've gotten a stop and a half back. So even if we just do, you know, the short math on it, with the B20, you're talking about 400 full power shots on a charge. With it back at 9, that 400 jumps to 800, and then back to 8.5, you get another 400 shots. So you're talking about 1,200 shots just by changing your modifier selection. And honestly, it still looks really lovely, really natural, and you can do some really good stuff with a hard light modifier. So again, modifier selection matters, especially when it comes to high-speed sync. Now, one of the things I do want to make sure that we talk about with high-speed sync is it's not necessarily made for stopping action. So we'll do this thing really fast too with Kate, where she's going to kind of swing her dress, and we'll see that even though we have a faster shutter speed, the durations on a high-speed sync image is longer. So it's not necessarily going to be as crisp as you want. There is going to be a level to which you can, your shutter speed will meet your flash power, and you'll probably be able to stop some of it, but it's definitely not made for stopping action. It really is an ambient light control feature. So, and luckily we're doing this with the OCF Zoom, so we have a little bit more latitude on the top end. So now I'm going to lock that exposure into place, so we're not using TTL, but we're at a power level of 7, which is nice. So let's, now we're going to have some movement with Caitlin and see how this thing can stop that action at 640th of a second. 3, 2, 1. One more time, do that. 3.
Just drop it?
Yeah, just kind of pop it. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So we'll dive into those images and look at the edges of them whenever we're back in the studio, just because it's kind of hard to see that detail in my LCD screen. But again, it's not necessarily made for stopping action. Is there a point in which the action's not moving too fast that you'd be able to freeze some of it? Sure, but there's probably some edge blur on there, and we'll check all that stuff out in the studio and we can talk about it there. So, but for the most part, I think we've covered everything that we need to talk about out here. We'll see you back in the studio, everybody. Peace.
Hey.
So that was it. Definitely battling the sun there. Lots of either tons of huge clouds or zero clouds. So that was super fun. It was also really hot. I mean, it's a Georgia summer day. Oh, and the bugs are crazy. The bugs are crazy. There was no water to be found anywhere, but about a trillion mosquitoes, and they found us. Yeah. So luckily you couldn't see any of our bug bites. Bonus. But really the whole idea behind this is to show you that you can do some really good stuff with not a ton of power and get really great results. Again, we're using a 250 watt second light. And I think a lot of times people hear lower numbers and they think they need more stuff than they actually do, and you just don't. We took some really, really cool shots. Now, were we at the upper portions of the power scale for what we were doing? Sure. But by flipping over to the OCF Zoom, we were able to gain a little bit more light. So we had either more battery life or we had more distance out of the light if we needed it. So we're shooting, the bonus for us is that we were shooting at like, so I have a GFX 100S, and the lens that we were shooting with here is the 110. So I believe that works out to about 85 millimeters in the full frame world. So the thing that we had going on for us here is that I'm backed up a little bit and shooting tighter, so I can bring the light in. Like, it's a little bit easier for me to kind of feather the light closer to her because I'm chopping out a lot of stuff. If you like to shoot a little wider, this is something I didn't talk about in the video and kind of popped into my brain later on, but if you're shooting wider and you may need a little bit more juice to back that light up just out of the frame. So again, just your what you like stylistically is going to play huge into what's going to be the best choice for you when it comes to doing on-location stuff and utilizing high-speed sync. We had a few questions. Luckily, when we're doing these pre-record things, I can jump in and answer them really, really fast with typing, but I still wanted to bring a couple of them up just to talk about it. So let's go up to my boy Tony's first comment, Tony Pags. Okay. Pop that thing up on the screen, yeah. So Tony was asking, you know, should high-speed sync be used as a last resort? Because there's a lot of stuff out there, people saying that it shortens the life of your flash. If it shortens the life of your flash tube, it would be just a little bit. I wouldn't shy away from, especially because tools are meant to be used. Flash tubes are meant to be changed. I've shot with certain lights for years and years and years, high speed. I'm predominantly an on-location photographer. That's the stuff that I do. I use high speed sync all the time, especially as a GFX shooter, because as something, you know, Ben asked also in here, he asked what camera, and then he started talking about sync speeds. 1/25 of a second is the fastest I can go before I have to jump into high speed sync. So I'm in high speed sync a lot with my GFX. And I haven't had any issues with any of my lights struggling with their longevity, their life. So I would say don't shy away from it. It's use the tools. They're meant to be used. And if you use the mess out of it so much that you have to change out your flash tube, sounds like you're pretty busy. You probably have it in the bank account for a flash tube. Any other, I would see what other questions we had. Someone was asking about using multiple, so we're talking about high speed sync, and I mentioned global shutters, and I mentioned leaf shutters, and now with the Sony A9 III, someone was asking, can you use multiple lights with the global shutter? The answer is yes.
Multiple flashes, short exposure time?
Yeah, so multiple flashes, short exposure time, which is nice thing with the global shutters. You're able to use your full power spectrum. You're not having to pulse the light like you would in high speed sync. And yes, you can. I do believe with the A9, the A9 III, that our only remote that does has the global shutter tech in it right now is the remote on the A10. So that's just something to keep in mind right now. But I know that we're working on it for the rest of the stuff. It's just, it takes a second. And we're doing it with Sony. So that's the compatibility to be really, really good. But again, the high-speed sync thing is really, really cool. Like we were talking about towards the end of the session, high-speed sync's not necessarily made for stopping action. I think a lot of people imagine to themselves, they're like, oh, I'm using these super high shutter speeds. I must be able to just stop action just the way that I would ramp my shutter speed up. But in the flash world, that, oh, good question. But in that world, what happens is the light stays on a lot longer. It stays on like a constant light. So the light turns on and then it starts to pulse over and over and over again to give you that exposure as your focal plane shutter is kind of moving across your sensor. So because that's happening, you're not going to get the recycle speeds that you are used to, and the duration's so long that stopping action's going to get a little bit harder. So one of the things, and you know, Ronald asked this question too, in the conditions if you're running your lights overheating, you absolutely can. If you're trying to push your lights super duper hard, luckily we've
had that happen more than once.
Luckily for us, we had our light kind of cocked over, and so some of the softbox was shielding some of the heat from it. So that helps there. But the way that the Profoto stuff works, if it starts to overheat, it does it in stages, so it doesn't like totally lock you out of your stuff. So like the first thing it'll do is if it gets super hot, it'll turn the modeling light off, and then the next thing it'll do is it'll start to slow the light down and slow the light down, and then finally when it's like, hey, we're too dangerous, that's when it shuts the light down. So there's some stages there to kind of to save you, or at least give you a warning that kind of stuff's happening.
And we've learned to bring extra umbrellas.
Yeah, we try to cover our stuff now. Yeah, you saw me under my beautiful umbrella.
Shade we can, yeah.
So, but yeah, there's sometimes you just have to kind of have something to block it out. So,
the white Octa.
Let's see.
Sticky over time.
Will the interior of the new Octa get sticky over time? My XL white umbrellas. I mean, I don't think so. The linings are supposed to be pretty good. For this one, I use the white Octa. I just like the smoothness of it, and I found, you know, surprisingly enough, I expected the white Octa to be less efficient than the silver, but it's just a little smoother. So if you like more of the specular look, go with the silver. If you like something a little smoother, go with the white interior. But I have had the 3-footer for a minute, and I open and close them a lot, and I haven't seen anything sticking. DM me. Kate will pop up my Instagram, and you can DM me here, and we can chat about it. And then Joshua says, "Hey, oh, hold on a second. Kate's gonna pop. No, that's fine.
Sorry,
she's gonna pop this. We can only work on like a page at a time.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Jonathan said, "Hey, I'm a journalist and photographer. I wanted to buy my first Profoto flash. Already worked with the B1X. I shoot different conditions from my. Yeah, you can pop it up. Shoot conditions from my living room to sun, which suits me better. So, I think the answer, Joshua, is just." What do you like stylistically? If you like balance, an A2 or a B20 would be great. Mm-hmm. If you like a little more contrast, you like to push the ambient light down really far, and you just like there to be a big difference between your flash and your ambient, something that looks more flashy, maybe a D30 or a D30 if you're inside, but if you're traveling B30, the Bravo 30 is a good move. And the nice thing is if you err on the side of having more power with something, hang on a second, we're still here, don't worry about it. For some reason, that's what it is. The grab that right there. We have battery life, but the nope, that plug right there.
Oh, fun. Okay.
The back end of, I try to keep the cameras, sorry, we're gonna do this again. I try to keep the cameras plugged into AC power when we're in the studio, and I plugged in that side to AC power. I did not plug in that side to the AC power. So we're still talking.
Who'd have thunk?
But now you can see us. Yeah. Technical difficulties today, that's just what we're dealing with. So, again, the nice thing about going to the D30 side, or B30 side, the letters get to me sometimes whenever we talk about everything. The Bravo 30 side, the upside is you have power on the top end. So a lot of times I tell people, you know, if you don't mind carrying a little bit bigger piece of gear, and you do a lot of stuff outside, I like going the B30 route because you still have 11 stops of light you can turn down. So you can go from full power 500 watt seconds to like point something watt seconds, like really, really low. So if you need to be a little more subtle with the flash, you can still do that with the B30. You just also have one more stop of light on the top side. The thing that you give up to gain that one stop of light is just a little bit of weight and a little bit of size in your bag. Josh said, a close choice. There's already the B20, B30 characters were, let's see, character weren't enough. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would say to do. Think about what it is that you like. If it's about matching ambient light, you want things to feel natural, you could easily get away with an A2 or a B20, and that'll keep your size down. If you want maybe a hair more versatility, B20 at minimum, B30 would be great. So cool. Best way to add gels to the white Octa like the A1, I found, so you can put the OCF so like you slide the Octa onto the light, open up the diffusers, and then put the OCF gel kit, the magnetic one, inside of it. Because the light is hitting that center diffuser and bouncing all over the place, it does a pretty good job filling it. I believe when we did the Spot Small video, we used the 4-foot Octa, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the 4-foot. It was a big softbox. Oh, it was the 3x4. It was the new 3x4. So with the new 3x4, we put a blue gel and a green gel inside of it, specifically using that modifier. So we put the OCF thing 2 holder in there, and it was great. Now, if you'd rather be a little scrappier about it, you're more than welcome to take some gaff tape and gaff it inside around the light. It's not going to hurt anything. Just make sure the gel that you get can handle a little bit of heat, just because when the flash tube ignites, it's going to put off some heat. But the LED modeling light shouldn't be a big deal.
Just making sure I didn't miss anybody. PGA working, my Profoto lights in that oppressive heat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's see, been taking advantage of the people clearing out their B1Xs. Got 4 B1X, 6 batteries. Oh, that's a sick deal. That's a sick deal. And the B1s are still great lights. So I mean, that's the beauty of a Profoto flash is they're meant to last forever.
Yeah.
So it's a nice deal. I know a lot of people too have also been snagging. I think Ronald actually is one of the people who's been snagging really good deals on B10s now that the B20s and B30s are out. So there's, you know, if that's what you're looking for, and we can chat about it too. I think Ronald and I had a conversation about the pros and cons of going both ways and settled where he settled. So cool. So one of the things I wanted to do, I said that we would bring up an image inside the studio just so you can kind of see what we were talking about from a not freezing action perspective with high-speed sync. So yeah, so you can pull that up. So we have some more images we shot here. So in the video, you saw her kind of just twisting the dress, and those movements weren't big enough necessarily to show you what it was we were talking about. So we stopped and did a few more movements after the video finished rolling, and just to kind of show you, we'll zoom in here, kind of where the focus is for the most part. And you'll see that even at the midsection, there is some, you know, it's not as crisp as it could be. Even if say we go up here to her face, where the eye autofocus is aiming for, that movement, it's just not, HSS isn't made to stop action like that because of that super long duration. So the light's on longer and it's capturing more of it. Now, again, there is a threshold. I don't know that threshold. It's one of those things that you have to experiment with yourself. But there is a threshold where your shutter speed is fast enough that it can overcome the duration of the light. But the thing that you have to remember is when the shutter speed starts going higher, your flash power starts going higher. And the higher your flash power goes, the longer your flash duration is. And that's whether you're in HSS mode or a normal mode. Whenever your flash power starts to go up and up and up and up, your duration also slows down quite a bit. So it's just one of those things you have to keep in mind.
Okay, he was actually talking about the Softbox 3-foot
let's see.
Octa Silver Ricardo.
Let's see. Thank you guys. I meant the new Softbox 3-foot Octa Silver. I don't think I can open that one right now. I haven't had any issues with my 3-footer. I have a pre-pro model with and I think we made the fabrics even better. So I think you'll be fine. I haven't seen any issues with it. Still, feel free to DM me. We can chat about it. We could, I'd love to know your experiences on some things. But if you're saying that you're having that issue with a 3-footer, I definitely want to hear from you. So reach out, please. Yeah, you can actually, since we're here in this mood, yeah. That way? Yeah, the camera's backwards. So let's see if we have anything else. Hot dog. Caught a live sesh. Welcome.
Good to see you.
Thank goodness for internet issues, right? Because we were lagging today because of it. But we're here, and I'm glad you're able to hang out, hot dog. That's awesome.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Cool. Well, with that being said, I hope this was informative. Thanks for. I think that you got to truly experience without sweating like we did, the changes in the light through the video, which is nice. Yeah. No bug bites for you, bug bites for us. But I think the images turn out really, really cool. I think.
So we know to bring an extra umbrella to cover the gear.
Yes. So
next time we also bring
bug spray.
Bug spray.
Yeah. It's we're learning things that we never thought about doing in the past on certain things, but we're getting there. Yeah. We're getting there. And then maybe next time we'll recruit the guy that's walking behind us to come up and manage the ND filters while the sun is changing.
I thought he was going to come talk to us. He was going back.
He was very curious. He was very curious. But that being said, we hope you have an awesome rest of your week. If y'all have any questions, again, I know Caitlin's popped up my thing about it a million times, but I'm at TheChrisFan on Instagram. DM me. We'll chat about it. You can also find me on the Profoto user group Facebook page. Hit me up there as well, and we can chat about stuff. We'll go through things. We got some fun stuff planned over on that side of the thing. So I really appreciate you guys. Have an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you next time on Geared Up. Peace out.